Today's history's mystery is the Titanic got a play-by-play 14 years before it happened. Let's take a look. Do you know anything about monsters? Yes, Michael, we discussed that. We will be talking about them later. The wreck of the Titan. A man named Morgan Robertson wrote a book 14 years before the Titanic sank. He wrote a book about a ship named the Titan that sunk in the North Atlantic after hitting an iceberg. Now, that's a pretty odd coincidence, but, you know, nothing too bizarre. It's pretty, I'd call that pretty strange, right? He writes a story about a ship called the Titan that gets sunk in the North Atlantic after hitting an iceberg, and, you know, there's an actual ship called the Titanic that sinks after hitting an iceberg in the North Atlantic. That's pretty crazy, but not unbelievable. You know, it's within the realm of coincidences, and not too bizarre. What gets strange is what I'm going to tell you now, and that is the various quotes from the book that match up exactly with the Titanic. Keep in mind, this book was written 14 years before the Titanic. He had no knowledge of the Titanic or its construction. This was before it was even an idea. He wrote in the book that the Titan would be the largest craft afloat and the greatest works of mankind. The Titanic was also claimed to be one of the largest crafts afloat and one of the greatest works of mankind. The Titan of his book was claimed to be the quality of a first-class hotel. The Titanic also claimed to be the quality of a first-class hotel. The Titan claimed to be unsinkable. The Titanic also claimed to be unsinkable, famously saying that not even God could sink the Titanic. Both ships, the Titan, the fictional book, and the Titanic, were both British-owned and steel vessels. Both the fictional boat, the Titan, and the Titanic were 800 feet long, and they both had the same number of lifeboats. In fact, they both didn't have enough lifeboats for their passengers, and they both didn't have enough lifeboats for their passengers for the same reason, which is because they believed their boats to be unsinkable, they didn't store anything more than the legal amount. Finally, both the Titan and the Titanic sunk in April around midnight. That is the prophecy of the Titan. This is a story. There was a book before the Titanic actually sunk. OMG. Yes, that is correct. Victor. Hey, Victor. How are you doing? Hey, 8-Bit. How's it going? Do you know anything? So this is the story of the Titan. He wrote this book 14 years before the Titanic sunk and predicted down to the location, the time, the cause of the problem, the size of the boat, where the boat would be created, the cause of its destruction, where it would be destroyed. He wrote all of this down in his book 14 years before the Titanic happened. Rule number 1. Don't test God. I think that's the real story of Titanic. The man who created the Titanic said not even God could sink the ship. Your ship's pretty screwed. But this is actually one of the weirder things, is that this isn't that rare. This kind of prediction happens a lot in history, and we don't really know how this is possible. I don't know outside. It's odd to me because it doesn't seem like a prophecy from God, because God would give you a vision and say, this is something that will happen, prepare yourselves. But this doesn't seem like that. This just kind of seems to be something that happened. It's just an odd occurrence. And this is where you see what are called synchronistic events occurring a lot in life. This is where it's just odd coincidence that kind of just linked together. I don't know what it is. It's almost like God just waving, just being like, hey, just a reminder, I'm here. But it is really odd because it doesn't seem to have much of a purpose outside of just being really bizarre. But what do you guys think? How is this possible? How does someone write a book before a boat even exists, predicting its exact problems, down to the name being very specific? I mean, one thing that comes to my mind is that the Titanic, maybe the person who made the Titanic read this book and built the book. The boat was inspired by the book. But why would he be destining himself for doom? It's really bizarre. Maybe that's the conspiracy. Maybe the Titanic was a big stunt. Maybe it was a big setup. Maybe there was important people on the Titanic that needed to get taken out. And so they put together this whole show, and they're like, well, how do we make this theatrical? And so then they read the book. Perhaps. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's hear your thoughts. What if it's the people of the future changing history? Ooh, that's interesting. So the people in the future, their event is so powerful that it like rewrites history. That would be crazy. That's bizarre. That takes a new level to the Soviet thing of rewriting history, huh? It is crazy. Like time travelers, that could be it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you're saying like people go into... That could be it too. That is bizarre. Yeah. That would... Like the Soviets, obviously what they do is they lie about history, change history. Chinese government does that. The news stations in America do that. They're all part of the same party. It's called the Communist Party, and their whole bit is they lie about history to try and gain power. And so what they do is they just lie and then hope people forget, and then they stop educating them about the truth. That's why it's important to buy books. Old books from the past and keep them. So... That being said, this is like that would be another level. Like the event is so powerful that it actually changes the history. Yeah, it is a giant marketing scheme. Maybe the author of the book was working with the guy who built the Titanic so he could sell more of his books. A giant evil marketing scheme. You know what? I think before I started my career in marketing, I'd hear that theory and think that's ridiculous. There's no possible way that could be the case. After seeing the moronic stunts that marketers try to pull all the time, I wouldn't even put it past them. That seems like it could be a real case. I know it's absurd, but yeah, I think that's definitely possible.